Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so glad that you're listening today. Now, if you're listening right now, it's either because you already subscribe and you love listening to all the episodes of the Collide Kids podcast, or it's because you saw the title and you're interested in good money habits, which is what our show is about today. Or maybe you accidentally clicked on this show and it just started. Well, however you ended up here today, I am so glad you're hanging out with me, and I hope you stick around and come back for more episodes. And don't forget to be sure to listen to the very end of this episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you get to be on the podcast. Well, hey, it's time to talk about money. I know that's not everybody's favorite conversation, especially in families, but I think it's so important. So let me introduce my guest for today. His name is George Kamel. He is a personal finance expert with a countercultural approach to money. He is the host of the Fine Print and EntreLeadership podcast on the Ramsey Network. Since 2013, George has served at Ramsey Solutions, where his goal is to help people spend less, save more, and avoid consumer traps so that they can make the most out of their money. I think we're all going to learn a lot today, and I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation with George Kamel. George Kamel, it is such a pleasure to have you on the Collide Kids podcast.
It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for being here today. Will you just introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is George Kamel, and I'm a Ramsey personality here at Ramsey Solutions. And the personality word can throw some people off. What that means is I get to kind of be out front for our company, spreading this message of hope that Dave Ramsey has really built over the last 30 years. So I'm really passionate about our money message and helping people become debt-free and really achieve all of their financial goals and not be held back by anything that comes their way.
I love that. And a lot of the parents might be familiar with who Dave Ramsey is if your church has ever done something like Financial Peace, or you've heard Dave Ramsey on the radio. So what is your part in all of that with Dave Ramsey Solutions?
So I am now co-hosting the Ramsey Show. So if you know about his radio show, I'm sitting there with Dave and with our other personalities, taking calls and helping anyone that comes our way who needs help. And I also host a brand new podcast called The Fine Print, where we really uncover money traps that are out there and help people understand the trends that they're hearing about in the headlines and what to do about them, and really how to get a handle on their money and make smarter decisions. So I've got that one. And then I also host our EntreLeadership podcast, which is geared towards small business owners who are trying to win, grow personally, grow their teams, and grow their profits. So we've got a lot going on. I also get to speak and do things like this, and it's just an absolute blast.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love all the podcasts you're involved in. You know, I'm a big fan of podcasts because I'm doing one.
I just love a good podcast, I guess.
That's right.
Just like
That's
you.
Awesome. Yeah. And one of the things I love about the Dave Ramsey radio show is whenever people call in and their family gets to like do this big thing and shout out about how they're debt free, it gives me goosebumps every single time.
Oh my gosh, me too. There's nothing like it. I can't help but smile like plastered on my face while they're screaming. It's just, there is this joy that you feel through them, and it's so inspiring. It just reminds me why I do what I do every day. And a lot of people don't have that. They sit at the desk, they crunch their work, and they go home, and you never get to see the impact that your work has on the fans, on the audience, on the customer. And so it is such an honor to get to be out front and experience that with them.
That's great. Well, so this is a podcast for kids. So before we get into all of your story, I'd really love to start out with something fun because this is my kids' favorite part of the show for sure. So do you have a joke you want to share with us to kick us off?
Yeah. Okay. This one's for the kids. Okay. I want to make that very clear. Are you ready for it? How do you make a tissue dance?
Oh, I think I've heard this.
Put a little boogie in it. That
Yes.
one got my wife loves that one, and so that one was for her. I do have one that is, I guess, for the adults.
Okay, let's hear
You
that
ready
one.
for? And it applies to the current society that we find ourselves in. I know a lot of jokes about unemployed people, but none of them work.
Oh,
That one takes just a second to get
you're
there.
like, what? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
what we call a dad joke. I don't have kids yet, but I feel like that one's gonna land.
That one's going to be a great dad joke. You're ready now. You're ready to have kids
I'm
now.
so ready.
All right. Well, let's get started. So, we've been talking about your job at Dave Ramsey, and one of the things you mentioned was hope. And I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of families that are struggling with money. So, tell us a little bit about that hope. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, it all starts with an understanding of money. And we teach God's and grandma's ways of handling money. So after Dave Ramsey went bankrupt over 30 years ago, he went, okay, that didn't work. And he had this amazing faith journey on his way back up from bankruptcy. And he really went, hey, what does the Bible say about money? And what is the tried and true methods that grandma used to save for that rainy day, the emergency fund? And what kind of
Mhm.
lifestyle did they lead? And how do wealthy people lead their lives in such a way that caused them to build that wealth? And what he found was it all starts with becoming debt free. And so we have this thing called the baby steps. These are the 7 baby steps that Dave laid out many moons ago that have led so many people to financial success, including myself. And so I kind of became, as Dave says, the test tube baby for Ramsey. I started 8 years ago and I started following this plan, and I was $40,000 in debt. I had all these
Wow.
student loans, I had all these credit cards. And you know what I thought? Well, this is normal. I wasn't even that stressed because I just thought, well, this level of stress is just, this is being an adult. This is being a human. And I didn't realize there was another way. And so once I got started here at Ramsey, I started following the baby steps. And so we teach, get a starter emergency fund going so that you have some buffer between you and life and you don't have to swipe the card when every little thing comes up.
Mhm.
And then you get out of all of your consumer debt. And so I started paying off my student loans, my credit cards aggressively from smallest to largest. And lo and behold, 18 months later, I became debt free. And so that set me on a path then to save up a fully funded emergency fund, start investing. And if you've got kids, start saving for college. And now we're paying off the house early, me and my wife, because of these
That's awesome.
principles. And I'm 32 years old. So it's just been a huge blessing. And that's really the steps that we lay out for anyone. And everyone thinks, well, I'm special, George. You don't understand my situation. Okay. We've got 5 kids. We've got this situation. We've got a medical thing. The principles apply regardless of your situation if you do them.
Yeah. You know, I I know for me when I was a kid, I thought, what's the big deal? If we don't have the money, we'll just use our credit card. That's what it's for. So, why is it so important to not always rely on a credit card?
Well, for starters, it's a crutch, and you're borrowing other people's money. And the Bible is very clear in Proverbs. It says the borrower is slave to the lender. And so, if we're going to say, hey, I'm a person of faith who actually believes this stuff, we've got to look at that and go, what does that mean for me? Well, it means that I'm not going to be the kind of person who borrows money. And so that means we've got to find an alternative solution. And so that's where things like budgeting comes into play, where we got to have a plan for every dollar that comes in. Because the problem is not that we don't have enough income. A lot of people, whether you make 35,000 or 350,000, they all go, we've got money problems.
Yeah.
And so it's not always about the income, it's about what you're doing with that income. I've seen people who make $35,000 who pay off all their debt and they're investing and they can become millionaires. And I've also seen people who make $170,000 a year who can't get their spending under control and they're broke. And so it's not about the income, it's about what you're doing with every dollar that comes in.
Yeah, that's good advice. So, let's talk a little bit about kids that are listening right now, because I think a lot of times we think when I'm an adult, I'm going to start having good habits for whatever it is. And so, especially with money, you say there's some ways that we can start our kids in the right track with good money habits. What are some of those ideas?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no national adult day where you just wake up and you go,
That's
okay,
right.
it's time to get serious about this stuff. And the problem is a lot of people find themselves graduating from college and they're $100,000 in student loan debt and they go, oh gosh, no one told me. No one told me how hard life was going to be. No one told me that my payments were going to be $900 a month and I'd only make $1,500. How am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to pay for all these bills? And so I think if we can get kids prepared early on, we're going to set them up for such amazing success later on in life when they graduate college. So for starters, if you've got, preschool and kindergartners, you're obviously not trying to teach them about 401ks. Now's not the time. You want to really start age appropriately. And it really starts with setting an example. If your kids see you swiping the card all the time, they're going to go, oh, mommy swipes the card. And that's how we get stuff, right?
Yeah.
They have no connection to work and to money. And so making sure that they've got maybe a clear jar at home where they actually put real money in there to save. And maybe it's things like, hey, if you put away your toys, we'll put a quarter in the jar. And it just shows them that money comes from work. It doesn't fall off of trees. It doesn't come from the credit card company. It comes from you putting in the work. So we call those commission. We don't love the idea of allowance of just, hey, if you exist, you're going to get money. And obviously, we don't want child labor here. I'm not telling you to put your kindergartner to go mow the lawn for $1. Do things that are age appropriate, but show them that stuff costs money, right? If you're at the store and they want a toy, you ask them, hey, how much does that cost? Well, let me teach you. That costs $5. So what would it take for you to save up and pay for that $5 toy? And they start to understand these concepts early on. So that's kind of what you do. If I was the parent of a preschooler or kindergartner, that's some age appropriate things you can do.
I like that. What about for our elementary kids? I have 2 elementary kids. So what are some things we can do with them to help them have good money habits?
I love this. So elementary kids, they start to kind of get the idea. They know what money is. You've got pizza day at school and it costs $1 for the slice of pizza, and they start to actually understand this exchange of money. And so what I like to do is really show kids opportunity cost at that age. If you spend $1 over here, you can't spend $1 over there. So what this is helping them do is start to prioritize the spending in their life. And obviously, there may not be a lot coming in or going out, right? It might be, hey, grandma gave me $10 for my birthday. But if we teach them, hey, if you save that $10, what could that turn into? Or what could you do with that later? Versus, hey, we're going to go to the candy store and blow it all like that. And so it just helps them understand this delayed gratification, this idea of contentment early on. And really, this is where the commissions and allowances come into play. This is where your kids can actually start helping out with some chores around the house. And, we have a chore chart in Financial Peace University Junior where you can actually have it on the fridge and you go, all right, your tasks are this. If you brush your teeth, you do this. If you put the toys away, you get this. So that helps them understand this kind of transactional thing that happens with work and money. Another one is just avoiding impulse buys, right? They're starting to go shopping with you a little more, and they're starting to be a little more glossy-eyed at all the stuff in the store. They're starting to get excited. So helping them understand, hey, I know you want that treat, that snack, but we didn't budget for that. We came in with a list and a plan, and this is what we're going to get today. And if you want to get that snack, hey, we can plan for that on our next trip, and we can do that, and maybe we can afford it in our next budget. And so that's kind of where these things start to come into play is you setting the example, and they see, oh, this is how mom and dad do it. We talk about how more is caught than taught. And so they're going to learn way more by watching you than by you telling them what to do.
Yeah, I think it is important for parents to learn how to say this very special word. It's called no. And it's
Two
really
letters
hard.
that can be very hard.
That's right. They're very powerful though. But I think I like the way you explained it, like helping them understand why you're saying no instead of just giving in because they ask for it.
Oh, yeah. And one of my favorite things my dad taught me was taxes. And so every time I get a bag of candy, he'd take a big handful out and he said, hey, this is taxes. And he would eat it. And I would go, that's not fair. But now I understand what he was teaching me is that you got to understand that taxes are a part of life and that, a quarter of everything that comes in is going back out to Uncle Sam.
That's right.
And that's not a bad thing. We just have to help kids understand that just because you make $50,000 a year doesn't mean that you have $50,000 in your bank. And that took a long time for me to understand as a child that, oh, the money stuff just doesn't work how I thought it would. And so helping your kids understand these things early on, that way when they get their first paycheck, they're not going to have the sticker shock going, wait, I thought I made $10 an hour. This is more like $5 an hour. And you go, yep.
Yes.
This is life, kids.
That's right. I'm glad to know that other parents do that. Every Halloween, me and my husband, we take our parent tax out of the Halloween bag.
Halloween taxes are especially hurtful.
Those
you
are
worked
hard.
so hard for that candy that you didn't even work for. You just went door to door and held out a bucket. I love that.
And we get all the Almond Joys and Butterfingers. That's the rule. So, it is what it is. Come on.
That's tough. That's the best ones.
I know. Well, I think so. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of our older kids. So maybe they're like 5th grade, 6th grade, going into middle school. What would you say for those kids as they're starting out with good money habits?
Yeah, this really gets fun because things start to get real, right? They may be starting to get their first job, or they may have actual costs associated with their life. Hey, I want to go on this trip with my friends for the weekend, or I want to go to the movies or to the mall. And they start to actually have to go, oh, I need money to have fun in life and to spend and live and all these things. And so one of the biggest things that you need to be teaching your kids is giving. We teach people to give no matter where they are on their financial journey, because that changes your character. And that really speaks to who you are, especially as a person of faith. Giving is so, so important. So I want you to teach them, if they get $10, I want them to give $1 of that. Maybe they give it to the local community, or if you're a part of a church, they can put it in the offering pot there. But just teaching them that giving is fun, that it's a part of life, and that it should be something that you do, and that is a part of who you are, is that you're a generous person. Because if you're not, if you live life very closed-fisted, it's going to change your character. And we want people to live open-handedly. You know, we talk about how the Bible does not say that money is evil. It says the love of money is the root of evil. And so we want to make sure that we understand that money's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's a tool. And it's a tool that can help and bless others. It's a tool that helps us live our life. It's a tool that helps us retire with dignity. And so the sooner we can understand that with our high schoolers, the better off they're going to be. And this is also where you can go, hey, we're going to open a bank account. This is really exciting. So you can actually go to your local bank. You can open a custodial bank account where you still have control of the bank account, but it is their money and it's in their name. And you can put money in there that's coming in from birthdays or Christmas, or maybe they do have a part-time job, or they're mowing some lawns, whatever that may be. And they actually have to go, okay, how do I manage this money? Because once they see money, they don't want it to go away. There becomes an age where you don't want to spend all of it, and you go, oh, wow, if I keep saving, what could I get? And this might be the age where they start to go, how are we going to save up for a car for them one day? And so I love the 401 Dave plan is what Dave calls it. He did this with his kids, where he matched whatever his kids saved up, he would match that towards a car. And this gets dangerous if you have someone who's very driven, because they might save up $5,000 or $10,000 by the time they're 16 or 17. And you go, oh, well, we said we're going to match it. So set some parameters, set some boundaries for this. But I love the spirit of it, where it says, hey, I'm not going, you're 16, you're on your own, kid. We're going, hey, how can we support you, but also help you understand how to reach bigger financial goals, where it's not $10 anymore, it's $6,000. So this is a great spot to start to give them responsibility of a bank account and give them responsibility of saving for a big goal.
We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
If they get a bank account, does that mean they get a credit card with that?
No, and this is very important. I'm glad you asked that question. Now, there can be debit card privileges with that, but I don't want you to go opening up a credit card for your kid to start teaching them the value of having a credit card, because truthfully, there is no value other than going, I don't need to have the money. I can just rely on someone else, and I'll maybe pay it back later.
Right.
And that is how America becomes broke over time, is parents teaching their kids and watching their parents go, oh, well, this is how my parents lived their life. They just lived it on credit cards. So that's how I'm going to live my life. And we've seen that time and time again. We call them financial peace babies now, because, these 28-year-olds are coming in saying, Dave, we paid off our house because our parents taught us this stuff when we were kids. And so it's amazing to see how that carries through. If you teach your kids the right way, they're going to do these things and be so financially successful that it's astounding. And if you don't do it the right way, what we see a lot of the times is the kids follow suit, and they have to claw their way out of student loan debt that you maybe didn't have growing up. And so we're seeing this generation that's very cynical, that it feels like, man, I got a bad deal out of this thing. No one told me that, college was going to be this expensive. No one told me rent was going to be this much. And so I want people to be aware and have these conversations early on. So I love that we're having this conversation with parents who probably do have younger kids who aren't in that phase where their kids are out of the house yet.
Right.
Because there's still time to do some things differently to change that family tree.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times parents think that their only financial goal for their kids is to save up for college, but there's so many other things that we could be thinking about and teaching them about, and not just about focusing on college and student loan debt. It is inevitable, but there are ways that they could invest. Are there other things that parents can do for their kids, like thinking about investments or thinking about things to put away for their kids for later? What are some good ideas for parents to keep in mind now?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing we teach is to invest in yourself when you're in this age. So a lot of, we have 18-year-olds calling the show saying, hey, Dave, I want to invest and I want to do all these things. And we go, hey, the best investment you can make right now is not in an IRA, it's not in a 401k, it's in yourself. It's in growing your skill set, it's in growing your character and who you are, and getting through college debt free. Because if you don't get through college debt free, but you have some money in an investment account, it's going to be really hard to live your adult life once you graduate. So if you are going to go to college, and we tell people that's not the only path. There's so many ways these days to make a great living and do work that you actually love to do. And it doesn't always require a 4-year degree, and it doesn't always require going to some name brand fancy school to do that. And so I want people to really start having the conversation with their kids of, hey, what do you want to do? What really lights you up? What gets you excited? What would you go do for free if you could do it for the rest of your life? And start dreaming with your kids. And that starts a whole different conversation, because then the financial talk is really about helping them achieve their goals. It's not about scolding them and saying, you've got to follow the 25 rules when it comes to money. It's about saying, hey, you want to be a school teacher? I love that. Let's get you there, and let's do it debt free. And let me walk you through the steps that it's going to take to get you there and have a great life once you do.
That's amazing. I think that's such a good way to think about it. What would you say to parents right now who are listening and they're like, I know I don't have good money habits and it's going to be really hard to set that example. What are some ways they can start good money habits?
Yeah, I think it starts with taking a hard look in the mirror and really doing kind of an audit of where you guys are at financially. Because a lot of people, they're in la mode. They're just, they're closing their ears and going, well, it's okay. We don't know what we're doing with this money, with this debt, with this income. And so I want to make sure that parents understand where their money is going. And once they do that, we can start making a plan. So I want to tell parents it's never too late. I don't care if you're 30 or if you're 60, it's never too late to take control of your money. Now, the more time you have, the better, because that means you're going to have 30 more years to invest. But it's never too late to get on the right track financially. And the baby steps are the path that we teach. And going through something like Financial Peace University as a couple is going to give you some great language. It's going to get you on the same page. That's the biggest question we get. How do I get on the same page with my spouse? Because someone listening right now may go, hey, I'm all about this, but my spouse, ooh, that's another story. And you can't go to your spouse and say, well, Dave said that's not going to work. It needs to be a shared goal that you guys have together for your future. So that's why something like Financial Peace University is so powerful, because it's not one spouse arguing with the other. It's Dave and our team of speakers showing you a new way. And if you're willing to have that paradigm shift, if you're willing to go, you know what, our plan hasn't been working, we're going to submit ourselves to this proven plan that millions of people have done. And it takes work, it takes some sacrifice, but it's going to be temporary to set us up for that future. So I want to tell parents it's never too late, and to put your mask on first, right? We do this in the airplanes. They always teach you to put your mask on first before the kids. And a lot of parents out there, they're not investing because they're so worried about the kids and they're trying to save for college and set them up.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? When those kids are adults, I don't want them to have to take care of you because you didn't prepare for your future. And so I want parents to be investing first. Invest 15% of your household income into retirement after you're out of debt, after you have that emergency fund, because that's going to set you up with such an incredible foundation. And then we can start having the conversation with the kids about, hey, what does college look like? How much money do we have? How much money could you save up? What kind of scholarships could we help you go after? How much could you work, part-time or while you're in school to make sure that you go to college debt-free? That's the biggest thing, is just having the conversation. My parents, we didn't have that conversation. They just said, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll figure it out. What I didn't know was that meant co-signing $36,000 in student loan debt to get me through school that I then had to pay back after I graduated. So clear communication, ongoing with your kids, helping them dream, helping them understand where you're at financially, where they're at financially, is going to be the best way to set them up.
I love that. So my husband and I, before we had kids, we did Financial Peace together, and our church had just done it. and we missed it. We missed the class. And so we thought, do we wait for the next one to come around? So we just did it on our own. So you don't actually have to be in a class at a church or a community center to do this. It was very beneficial to us. It was life-changing for us at the time. And then just a couple years ago, we realized we were getting off track, and we actually got a financial coach. And we started kind of back into the baby steps and doing all those things. And it really helped us to see where our spending was and what our issues were and where we needed to focus on paying off some debt. And then the pandemic happened. And had we not gone through that and had that accountability from that coach and from doing financial peace before, I don't know where we'd be right now. So I'm very thankful for the programs that you guys offer. And I think it's so important for, like you said, it's never too late to get started. And it's always going to be beneficial for you to have that accountability and somebody to help you walk through this. So you're not on your own.
Wow. That's so cool. That's a powerful testimony. And it's a great call out too, of you don't have to go to a physical class. You know, in 2021, we launched, we've got this thing called Ramsey Plus now, which you can go through Financial Peace University in this online membership. And we've got a free trial. If you guys want to check it out, you can just go to ramseyplus.com. But it's absolutely incredible because we've paired that with our every dollar budgeting tool. And like you're saying, you know, we also have coaching in there as well, where you can reach out to a financial coach. And if you have a particular question for your situation, we can help answer that. And so there's so many resources and opportunities out there. It just takes someone going, you know what, I'm going to swallow my pride and do this thing over here because I want to live a different way.
Right. And you never know how much it's going to benefit you. You think like, oh, this is really hard, I don't want to do it anymore. But what we're trying to teach our kids and what we're trying to learn is that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. And so sometimes we got to go through hard things so that we can learn and grow.
Oh, that's so good. And it reminds me of, there's some really important things there, like you're mentioning, especially as we talk about kids. The way that kids watch you handle money right now, it deeply affects them as they enter adulthood and handle money. So really setting that example and changing your life right now. And I love seeing the debt-free screams in our lobby, and the parents bring the kids and they're part of it. And the kids are screaming, we're debt-free. And I just think those kids are never going to go into debt because they watched the sacrifice their parents made. They watched their family tree change right before their eyes. They were probably a part of the journey. We hear all the time kids go, Mom, are you sure you should be spending that? You're trying to get out of debt, right? We hear these funny things that the kids start to go, hey, I'm seeing my parents sacrifice and I want to be a part of that journey. And it's so inspiring to see that kind of work ethic and how that grows your character even as a kid.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important, I think, to talk to your kids, like you were saying, about your finances, to explain why we're saving, explain why you want to give or to donate or to help. So there's always ways that we can bring in our kids into those conversations. And kids are very good at keeping parents accountable. So that's a good indicator. If you're doing something you're not supposed to and your kid calls you out, you might want to take a second look.
Yes. It can be dangerous and very entertaining as well.
That's exactly right. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I think it's going to be very helpful for a lot of families and for all these kids that are thinking, I'm a kid, I can't do anything with money, but you can start right now. I always like to ask my guests at the end of the show to share a memory from when they were a kid. So do you want to share a memory with us today?
Absolutely. This is a fun one. So I grew up it's a very unique culture, but it's Arabic Baptist. So I grew up in the Boston, Massachusetts area. My parents are immigrants from the Middle East, and they grew up Christian, which is now being in the South now for as long as I've been. They're like, wait, what? That's wild. And so I grew up in this very interesting Arabic Baptist evangelical kind of bubble. And I remember when I was 10 years old, my parents gave me the option of going to Syria to see some of our family with my mom and my brother, or my dad said, or I can take you to Six Flags. And I was like, yeah, let's go to Six Flags. And so because of that, I have never traveled to the Middle East, and I have regret now because things are crazy over there. But I kind of, I can go to Six Flags anytime, but going to the Middle East now, I have a little bit of regret. But I will also say I had a blast at Six Flags with my dad at 10 years old. And so we had a great time at Six Flags, New England.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, like all the rides, what kind of question is that?
You can't ask a 10-year-old that. You want to go to a theme park or go to a foreign country? No, thank you.
Yeah, for real. That's good. Well, good on Dad to go to Six Flags with you. That's really
I'm sure he wanted to go there too. That was,
that's probably what it was.
He secretly wanted to get out of the trip.
Right. There you go. And that's kind of what parents do sometimes. We're like, hey, you want to go to, because that's what we want to do, right? We want to go ride
Yes.
the roller coaster. So we try to rope our kids into it. We're
I
giving
love that.
away a lot of parent information, like secret information. We're
This is
not
some
supposed to be
parenting
telling.
hacks. Yeah, we didn't know we were going to go there, but we're here.
That's awesome. Well, George, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is a really good conversation. I think a lot of parents are going to enjoy and a lot of kids too. I hope this sparks some family conversations from this.
I hope so as well. And we've got so many resources for parents out there. I want to encourage them. You can go to RamseySolutions.com. We've got all kinds of articles and blogs and products. We have Financial Peace Junior, which I mentioned earlier. We have the Teen Entrepreneur Toolbox. If your kids are at an age where they're wanting to kind of start a small business or mow some lawns and really get a handle of that money. So we've got some great things out there for parents, aside from even some of our books and courses that can really help them have this conversation where they don't feel like I've got to figure this out for myself. We've made it super easy. So I encourage you guys, go to RamseySolutions.com. You can always check out the podcast, the fine print that I'm a part of for helping avoid those money traps. And it's really fun to listen to if you're a kid as well. So you can bring your kid along that journey. There's really short narrative storytelling type episodes. So you can find that at fineprintpodcast.com.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us and giving us all this good information. And I hope that a lot of people will check those resources out because they sound incredible.
Thanks so much for having me on.
It was so great talking to George today, and I was so encouraged. I hope you were too, to start good money habits. If you've never started good money habits or you've gotten away from them, now is the time to get back to what you know you're supposed to be doing, right? So we can start early with young kids. He talked about commissions, which I thought was a great idea, helping kids to see that money comes from the work you put into it. And parents, we need to work really hard at setting a good example. Explain to our kids how things cost money, and learning to save and make a plan for your budget are really great ways we can set an example. I also loved how he talked about giving, how giving is so important, especially as people of faith. That means we are someone that believes in God and we believe what the Bible says is true. So if we are people of faith, that means we should be givers. We want to be generous with our money instead of being closed-fisted. And I love that he says that generosity changes your character. Money really is such an important topic, and there's so much more to learn. I hope that this will start some great conversations with your family. If you'd like to learn more about the resources they have, you can go to RamseySolutions.com. You can also follow George. He's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or you can find out more about him at RamseySolutions.com/personalities. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. And I just want to say, I promise you, I did not plan this in advance, but I can't believe how perfect this worked out. The kid that I'm introducing today, his name is Cash.
My name is Cash, and I'm in first grade, and every good and perfect gift comes from above.
Great job, Cash, and what a home run verse for today's topic. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That verse is from James 1, verse 17. Well, if you would like to be on the podcast, I would love to hear your favorite Bible verse, or maybe you have a joke you want to share or an encouraging quote from a movie. You can find information about how to send that to me through my social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. You can also come check out my website, thecollidekidspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe and follow this podcast so that new episodes will automatically load each week into whatever podcast app you are using. And it would mean so much to me if you'd leave a rating and a review. That helps other people find out about the show and so they can listen too. Well, I hope that you and your family are encouraged to talk about money, to start saving, to start making a plan with your budget, and to be generous. And remember, it is never too late to start good money habits. So today is the best day, I think, to do that, right? I think so. Well, that's it for our show today. Hey, in case no one has told you today, let me be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.